everyone, it's Kelly from Kelly's Bead Boutique. So I often wonder to myself, how many leather bracelets can you create, Kelly? Well, it seems to be the thing that you guys love the most. So today I've created yet another leather bracelet. This one's a little different, it's a little more labor intensive, but it's equally as beautiful as all the other ones that I've made. So if you want to see what I'm making today, come and join me. Okay, so to make our piece today, we have some 10mm leather. By the time we add our ends on, that adds an extra 1.25 inches. So you're going to take your wrist measurement and reduce it by about 1 inch to 1.25 inches. So I also have some of these glue-in ends, and these ones are meant for the 10mm leather. And I have one of these Tiara cast long feathers. I also have one of their toggles and a couple little jump rings. And then I have two little tiny matte ebony 4mm pieces of wood. I have 20 inches of Irish wax linen, and then we need a bunch of tools for this. So we need a pair of bracelet bending pliers, and we need a couple hole punches. So this one is for the leather, and this one is for the metal. And then we're also going to be using probably a pair of tweezers, and we need a pencil. We're also going to need a pair of cutters, some bent chain nose pliers, and some chain nose pliers. So let's get started. So now this will be available in a kit, and if you do buy a kit, we will do the hard part for you. That we're going to put some holes in your feather and we're going to shape it using the bracelet bending pliers. If you want to do that yourself, just tell us in the comments, hey, leave those without being done and you can do them yourself. But most people don't have all these tools, so we're going to do this for you so that you can create your own kit. So the first thing I want to do is punch a hole in my feather so that we can string this on. So this is the 1.8mm punch, so it's got a little bit bigger hole. So I'm going to just line this up, and I don't want to go too close to the edge. I always want to make sure before I do press the punch that's exactly where I want it, because you can't go backwards. And we're just going to pop that through, and then you just kind of wiggle it out. Okay, so now I'm going to take my feather and I'm going to line it up in approximately the middle of the leather. So I want to take a pencil or something sharp. I mean, you can use your tweezers, whatever you want. And yeah, I'm going to have to use my tweezers because that's not very sharp. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take something to sort of mark where I want to punch my hole. And then I want to punch a hole on this side too. And then I'm going to place it in the middle of this loop down here and a middle of this loop down here. We are going to do this part for you. So you will get your piece like this with the hole punched in it. And then we will punch the hole in your leather, and then you will get to assemble it. So what I'm going to be using here is a leather punch, and I'm on the smallest hole, and I'm going to line it up with that first little mark that I made, and I'm going to give it a punch. And then I'm going to line it up with the second one. Now, if you get this kit, you'll notice that one's probably going to be closer than the other. So the one that's a little further apart is the one on this end here. And I will show you a couple troubleshooting things to make sure that your piece turns out perfect. Line up this one. And this is a really forgiving technique, so it doesn't have to be exact, but I do try to get it where I want it. Okay, so now I'm going to take this bracelet bending plier, and what this is just silicone pads, and it has a little bit of a bend in here. So if you're using this, you want to make sure that you place it in the right direction. I want my feather to go this way, so I'm going to place it so that the bend is at the top here. And I'm just going to put it inside and then just slowly start bending it. And this just helps give it that curve that your wrist naturally has. So I'm going to go all the way to the end. And I just kind of keep doing that. So again, if you buy a kit, this is the part that you will get done like this, unless you ask us not to. If you have all these tools and you want to do this part yourself, you can do that. Okay, so now when we place that on, it's going to sit nicely on top of those holes that we punched in there. All right, so now I'm going to take my Irish wax linen, and like I said, I have about 20 inches, and I'm going to match the ends up. And now I'm just going to cut that in half. So now what you want to do is you're going to bring one of the ends up through one of the holes, And so you can see here that this set of holes is just a little bit closer than those ones on the other end. So we want to make sure that we're using the point of the feather up here. So just, you know, if you're trying to figure out where does yours go if you get a kit, that's how we're going to figure that out. They will be just slightly wider at the other end. Okay, so this is where having tweezers does help, because you can poke holes and pull things through. Again, I'm trying to do this on camera, and it's always hard trying to get things to jockey around on camera. I mean, I hold things at a different angle than I normally do when I'm on camera, and it's not always easy to do. Okay, so I've got that in there sort of equal lengths, and now I'm going to take one end and run it through the hole that I punched on the end of the feather. So just get that through there. Okay, and then I'm going to take the one on the other side and run it through the hole again. So I want to go down. So I match up my holes so I can see through it, and then I'm going to push this down through. Now this is where, again, the tweezers come in handy. If you can't get it through there, you might have to use a pair of tweezers. I can usually get it through no problem. Of course, it's just always being awkward when I'm on camera. So the other thing you can do is you can turn this so that you twist it together again. So I just want to make sure I'm going the right direction. Yeah, that's untwisting. So I want to twist it up. So I'm going to just pull this one out of the way, get that matched up. And it is a lot easier than I'm making it look. It's just, again, trying to do it all on camera for you. So pull that through, and then this one is going to go down through there. And then I'm going to come across and pull this one back up through the front. So I just find if you kind of pull them out of the way, it does make it a little bit easier. It gives you, you can see the hole. So there we go. We'll pull that up. And then this one is going to come back up through that hole also. So now it's going to start getting a little bit more difficult because we have things in the way, but so use something like the tweezers or whatever you've got to poke it through. So you can also go like that and then pull it up through the hole. So we're not making this really tight yet. So I do promise it goes through here. It's just because I'm trying to juggle it all so you can see it. And if this starts to buckle up on you, just twist it. Make sure you're twisting it with the way that it will go to tighten it up. And then it makes it a bit more like a needle. And there we go. It just pops right through there. So it's a little fussy, but it's not too bad. So I'm going to pull those up, but I don't want to make that tight. So now I'm going to repeat on the other end. So I'm going to bring these up through those little holes. And this is where we have a little bit more that we can adjust. So if the holes are slightly off, if something went a little weird in the punching process, then we're good to go. So now I'm going to just repeat, but I've got a little bit larger hole to work with here. There we go. So now this is where you can adjust it. So if it's really tight down here, then you won't be able to move it. But I can adjust this back and forth right now because this isn't tight. Okay, so I'm going to take this end and put it down through the hole. And the same with this one. And this is just kind of a fun way to be able to lash something onto leather without having to use a metal like a rivet or something like that. So this is kind of more like a cold connection kind of thing, in that you can just, it's like sewing. You just kind of sew it on there. And so I'm just going to try to make it so that I can get that through there easily. And if you can't, just grab your tweezers and push it through. And then when it comes out the top, you can just kind of grab hold of it. And you see you've got lots here, so don't worry about it being completely even. It doesn't really matter. And then we'll push this one back up. So there you go. So now we've got those where we want them, and that is sitting exactly where I would like it. So now on this end, what I'm going to do is I am going to tie this together. So I'm just going to do an overhand knot. And I'm not going to worry so much about where the knot sits. So I'm just going to do one overhand knot, and I'm going to go back down here. I find it easier to kind of work back and forth. So now you want to tighten that up so it's nice and snug and it's not going to go anywhere. And then I'm going to do another overhand knot. Sorry, it's hard to get this flat because we've added that curvature in there, but it keeps flipping around. So hopefully you can see what I'm doing there. So just tying another knot. Okay. So now I want to tie a knot. I'm going to tie an overhand knot because I want to have a little bit of space in between the two here. So I'm just going to tie it around my finger, pull that through, and then move that down a little bit on top of what we did before. So I'm just kind of moving that knot down. I just kind of wanted to have a little bit more of a space there. So I'm just going to pull these apart to kind of tighten that up. All right, so now I am going to place this through. And if you have any troubles getting the Irish wax linen through your bead, just take something like your tweezers and just kind of make your hole a little bit larger. They are fairly large holes on these, but we want to make sure we can get both through. So I'm just going to run that through that bead. There we go. And I'm going to bring that down, and I'm pushing the bead against that knot, and you can see it's given us a little bit of space there. And now I'm going to do another overhand knot. It does get a little bit harder when we don't have as much here, so I find if you make a little loop and just kind of pull it through, and if you do have a pair of tweezers, what you can do is take the tweezer, put it through that little circle that you just made, and put it right next to the bead. And then when you tighten it up, your knot goes exactly where you want it. So these tweezers are invaluable, and we do sell those on our website, and they're only $3.99. So now we have kind of just a nice little embellishment. So I'm going to do that again on the other side. So I'm going to make a little knot, and I'll show you again how I did it with the tweezers. So you take your tweezers, place it through that knot you've made, and place it the end right where you want that knot. And then when I tighten it up, it goes right against the tweezer, and it just makes the little knot. So now I'm going to just sort of ream out my ends to make sure it's easy to get on. And then I'm going to run these through. There we go. And now I'm going to make another knot. I'm just going to take my pair of tweezers, go through that knot, and I'm going to place the ends right where I want the knot to go, which is right above that bead. And I'm going to just pull up and give that a little pull down, and that's in there nice and snug. So now what I want to do is trim this off, and I'm going to trim it off to about 1/2 inch, and you can kind of play with this and see what works for you. And then I want to use my tweezers, and I'm going to sort of part the little, there's 3 fibers in here because this is a 3-ply. So what you can do is you can untwist it. So you see if I go backwards on it, it kind of untwists it. And then you can use your tweezers to pull that apart even more. And that's just going to give it a little bit more texture. So we're going to untwist these and pull it apart. See how cute that looks? That just gives it that bit of an organic look. If you like it better like that, then just leave it like that. You know, again, this is your piece. You do whatever you like. So pull that apart. And there we go. Okay, so I did forget to mention that we will be using a bit of Loctite super glue. I like to use Loctite when I'm working on my leather, or the super new glue. Either one of those works really well. You can also use GS Hypo. It's just going to take a lot longer to cure. So the first thing I like to do is dry fit that. Just make sure that it's exactly where I want it to go. And then I'm going to take some of my Loctite on the end, and I go sort of around all sides. So I'm not putting very much because it'll all squish out all over the place. I'm just making sure that I'm hitting all the corners. And then I am going to pop that in there. And then you're going to hold it for you know, maybe 20 seconds until it's got a really good firm grip on there. So I'm just going to hold it for a little bit and then I'll come right back. All right, and now I'm going to repeat on the other side. So I'm going to place my glue on the end. You can put a little bit more on this part of the end because that won't leak out. And you should always have a little piece of paper towel or something so that if it does leak out, you've got something to clean it up with. So I'm just going to push that on, and then I'm going to hold that for about 20 seconds and I'll be right back. All right, so while we're waiting for these to dry a little bit more, I'm going to show you another little step that I completely missed. I forgot my little charm in the bag. When I bring home all these products to end up doing a video, I often will make little mistakes and forget to add them. So I'm going to put that on now, kind of like the glue, I forget things. Okay, so I want to take one of my jump rings and I'm going to open that up. And I'm going to, this is just to add a little bit of movement. I like a little bit of, you know, rattling on my jewelry sometimes. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to run it through this end piece here and just do this up. Get that done up there nice and tight. And sometimes it's a little difficult to do these heavy duty jump rings up, but you just kind of boss them around. And now I'm going to take another jump ring and I'm going to open that up and I'm going to add my cute little charm there. And again, I thought that fit this theme so well. Now I'm going to run that through that jump ring that I just put on there. And I'm just going to do that up and just kind of jiggle it back and forth until it goes on there. So now we have that cute little charm hanging off there. Okay, so now we're going to add our jump rings and our toggle on the end. So if you watch my videos, you know that I always do my toggles the same. So on one end, which is the rounder end, I'm just going to place one jump ring on and the toggle end and do that up. Now I do have to admit, these ones are hard to do up. They are very strong. So you have to have a good hand grip on your tools. All right, and then on the other end, I always put 3, and that makes it so that it's easier to run the end through the round part. If you only put 1 on, it puts too much stress on it, and it just makes it really, really hard to do up. So I always put on 1, and then I add another one. And then just jiggle them back and forth until they close up. And then I'm going to add my final one. And that will just make it so much easier to do up your toggles because this bar will go up through the loop very nicely. So now get a good grip on these and give a little jiggle until it's nicely done up. Now I would recommend once you get yours made that you sort of form it around your wrist. You can just sort of slightly mold this with your fingers. You don't want to push too hard because you could break that. So I'm just, you know, molding it just a little bit to give it a bit more of a curve. There you go. There's our completed pieces. I love how this one turned out. I love the organic feel to it, and I think it's just really sharp looking. This will be available in kit form, and you'll get to pick out the colors of your metal and the color of your Irish wax linen and the color of your leather. So we have a few different choices, and I love this with a little bit of the contrast on there. And we will do all of this work for you and punch all the holes so that all you have to do is assemble it. So if you did enjoy this, please make sure to give me a like, leave me a comment. I love to hear from everybody, and please make sure to subscribe to my channel. If you do want to purchase your own kit, all you do is go to the drop-down menu, which is just underneath the video. There's a link that will take you directly to my fully secure website, and you can purchase your own kit there. So thank you so much for watching, and we will see you on the next one.